Wes, I think last night you said something along the lines of like, we've done it before. So that means you have clips defensively to show these guys. How does that help, I guess, the process of trying to get back on track in that regard when these guys know that they've done it?
Well, I think it just shows that it validates what we're talking about, and that's where you trying to find the consistency to see that every night. It doesn't happen, obviously, but sometimes you go through those stretches where you're struggling, you're trying to figure it out, and we haven't played our best basketball, in the last 10 games. The first 13 games we were pretty good, and obviously defensively we were solid, and I think we've seen a lot of slippage, some of that lack of practice time. Haven't had a chance to get a lot of reps, but that's no excuse. We have to continue to find ways to get better, and we can't, sit here and say, well, okay, we used to do it. We got to find a way to continue to trend in the right direction.
Are there any particular actions that you would like to see your team be better at defending, or that you've seen them be better at defending, that you would like to get back to what you were doing earlier?
Clearly, pick and roll. I mean, that's an easy one, and sadly, that's a vast, chunk of the game. Whether it's the initial action or it's a play after the action breaks down. Teams flow into it. You may guard, on average, 50 plus pick and rolls in one night. So if we're not clean in our coverage, in our spots, if our communication is slow, it's going to be problematic.
When you play the Raptors, what stands out about them is just the turnover battle. They limit them, and they do a good job of forcing them.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So when you think about that going into a matchup with them, what's going to be the priorities?
To your point, though, there's got to be a priority to have ball security, value possessions, and that's got to be purpose in everything leading up to that. It's no auto passes. It's owning our spots. It's being physical, our setups, timing of our cuts, our screens, and all those things seem, somewhat amateurish, but they're important because if you don't do those things, it lends to their strength. They're going to turn you over, and once they turn you over, you're in trouble. If we are able to execute, they've had a hard time guarding. They thrive when they're able to turn teams over, and that just gives them life, gives them momentum. We want to try and take that away.
Fred VanVleet had 33 points last time you guys faced him. He's been difficult for this team for a long time. How do you guys look at him?
Well, he's a really good player. I mean, obviously, you want to get a guy like that out of his rhythm. We've got to set the tone and kind of, get him under control early. Once a guy like that shooting into a big basket, it's tough to, put that fire out. So can we make it tough on him? Give him different looks at some point, try to keep him off balance, but to give him a steady diet of anything, I think it's a slow, painful death.
And with the back-to-back coming up, as far as Spencer goes, what's the plan?
We'll still, rest him one of those two games. We'll make that decision as we kind of get closer. But there are two more back-to-backs this month, so we'll look at it through the remainder of this month. And the one positive out of that is we could see an uptick in his minutes overall. But as far as the back-to-backs, I still think we're going to be cautious with it. Still 11 months out post-surgery, which is in itself amazing that he's playing the way he has. So we still want to be cautious, be mindful of that, and we'll read it probably in the next 4 weeks.
And last one from me. What are you seeing in terms of the development of your two-way guys and also Isaiah Todd as you look kind of the prospects in the organization?
I mean, I like where they are. I mean, those guys they've played good minutes, for the go-go. And the best part about it is there's, the synergy within philosophy, style. So I think it can help translate, and I think, the hard part at times is, they play, get called up, don't necessarily get the reps, with us, but they're still learning. They're still understanding what we're trying to do and trying to process some of that. But I think the more reps they can get, the more in-game minutes that they can log, I think it helps them.
Have you determined whether Rui will go on this trip or not?
He will not. He will not. And then part of it is because of, you're playing 3 games in 4 nights, so early start tomorrow, so there's no shoot-around. We'll have a ballroom walkthrough, so really no court time, and the lack of facilities to be on the floor, to be in the weight room and get what he needs. The second night of a back-to-back, once again, there's no shoot-around. There's another ballroom walkthrough, and obviously that third day, of the 4-game trip, or 4-day trip rather, is an off day. So it's like, does it make a whole lot of sense to have him on that trip if he doesn't have access to the things that he probably should have?
Do you expect them to start doing 5-on-5 or any more contact work, more extended contact?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think we'll still have to, limit it from, probably 1-on-1, 2-on-2 on up, but we can't throw him in a 5-on-5 right now.
We'll go to Zoom. So Ava wants to know, you've spoken about inconsistent tone setting amongst the starters, but tactically, what's the primary issue you see with the first group?
I think a lot of it is our energy and effort level at times. I still think that group's still trying to figure each other out. You see the difference, I think, with Brad and Spencer when they're, one guy's in, one guy's out. We've got to find a way to get those guys on the same page, especially get Spencer going early. I think he's trying to set the table for those other guys, but we got to find a way to kind of get him involved and not be as passive.
And then she noticed during the game that Brad was wearing tape on his knee. Is everything okay?
I think it's probably peripheral. I don't see any issue. He's a full participant today, so I don't think it's any issue.
Josh wants to know, what did the film show about the team's middle pick and roll defense last night against Cleveland?
It was bad. It's just we weren't on the same page. I think it starts at the point. If we're not getting the communication, we can't get into the ball. We're not at the level the way we should be. We're not in our protection spots. So one problem beget the other problem, and it kind of snowballed. So lengthy film session. Obviously, a lot of things were discussed, but there seemed to be more clarity coming out of that.
Okay, Neil wants to know, last night Spencer said, we got a lot of guys trying to press the go button right now, so somebody's going to not have the rock. We want to change it, we can change it, that simple. Is it on you as the coach to call more plays for Spencer, or for him on his own to be his number one more?
Yes, in both those areas. I think I've talked to him quite a bit about it. And a lot of the stuff we have, it gets everybody involved. But he wants to play a lot of pick and roll, which I think he excels at. The issue is we want to stay away from the static, pick and rolls where it's just no action, it's all first side pick and roll. I think he benefits most when that ball's changed sides a couple times and the defense is shifted. Now you get into a third side pick and roll where he can attack and he's got space to play and move. But I think it's also our overall approach. Are we ready to play from the tip? I think at times it's predicated on whether we're making shots. I think that kind of depends on how aggressive, how locked in and in tune we are on the defensive end. That can't be the case. It's got to be, this is what we do. We're consistent with our defensive energy, our execution, whether we make shots or not. I think that allows us to stay in games. But we started to get frustrated with the lack of offensive production. Then we got consumed, I think, with some of the foul calls, no calls, and that just kind of sidetracked us. And we fell into that trap of arguing with the officials, and it really got us away from our game.
That's the last one. Thanks, Coach.
No problem.
I have a care about it. I like this sport.